All right, so back to the story. I was released. As I said, what happened was, I really just, it would have been so helpful if my mom and dad would just talk to me, help me get basketball videos. If I got basketball videos, it would have helped me so much with basketball. The few that I got from Kenny in 2021, it just helped my game out tremendously. But at the time, I still hadn't figured out my shot. Like, I figured out some things, like watching the videos. I figured out some moves that I did that gave me an edge when I was playing in Kauai and stuff. But I did things when I was younger that nobody did, and I knew that looking at the videos when I was like in college. But like I said, a lot of the videos were lost, and I didn't have many videos to begin with. But I wanted to get as many videos as I could get, and it would help me with the swag flow. I lost the swag flow. I lost a lot of stuff, and I'm not going to go into details about it, but I wanted to study as much as I could. And I wanted to go, at this point, go to LA and get my videos and put them online, put them on YouTube or something, because number one, I wanted to watch them and study them. Number two, I wanted to, at this point, things were going crazy. I wanted to make sure that my videos were safe and I can get them online, as opposed to just at this point, they were just in DVD format. So I wanted to go to Los Angeles, but at this point, I got in a fight with my aunt. We were driving. I pulled the keys out of the car because she called me a loser. I wanted to get my basketball videos. Remember, she was like, "Why do you want the basketball videos? Your grandpa says this is why you have schizophrenia. It's because you're stuck in the past." And that was the biggest problem, was this whole my grandpa saying no talking about the past thing that happened in high school. And I understand that concept at that time was maybe important, not really, but maybe it could have helped, because me talking about how the abuse that happened, or going over that with my dad and stuff, they just wanted to move on, right? But as my grandpa says, in the flow, sometimes talking about the past is important. It can be helpful. There is no formula, although my grandpa says in the flow, you're in the eternal moment, right? But I think a big problem was this: I'm not allowed to talk about the past thing, because at this point, I just wanted basketball videos. And it's not about the past, it's a study. And even my grandpa said that's a part of inquiry, that's a part of the flow. And it would have been beneficial for me to study the videos and stuff and get videos. But my mom and dad, and aunt didn't understand that. They just memorized no talking about the past, and everything is like black and white and rigid, and they don't understand that stuff. So they're like, yeah, no talk about the past. My man's like, no, why do you want the basketball videos? You need to, this is why you're schizophrenic. I wasn't even schizophrenic. But I will admit, at this point, I was writing a bunch of crazy stuff on Facebook, but I was writing, my right-wing stuff. And another thing is, like, I at this point, like I said, my whole life I've been a left winger, and none of this stuff would have happened if I wouldn't have been, if my parents would have talked to me. I wanted to show Dad about how the shootaway messed up my shot. I wanted to show him it wasn't my fault and stuff, and if it wasn't for, see, they thought there was something wrong with me in high school. They think there's something wrong with me, period. There's nothing wrong with me. It was because of the shootaway machine. That's the reason all the bad stuff happened. And I just want to explain this to them. I want to show them, but they won't talk to me. I'm not allowed to talk about the past, right? That was the biggest problem. I'm not allowed to talk about the past. So, and I never got the chance to talk about the past. And they wouldn't talk to me, period. So, at this point, I got in a fight with my aunt, pulled the keys out of her car. She called the police. She told the police I had schizophrenia, which I didn't. Then they took me to the psych ward. The doctor kept me there for a week, but he said he let me go, saying I didn't have schizophrenia. At first, he said originally I didn't have schizophrenia, but then he said it's possible I had bipolar disorder, but he had to see me for a little bit. So I stayed there for a week. After a week, he let me go. He said I didn't have bipolar disorder either. I'm not gonna go into details about how crazy the psych ward was and stuff, but that's another big story. But he said I didn't have any mental illness. My mom's screaming at me on the phone when I leave. She's saying, "You tricked the doctor. You have, you didn't tell him about the quadrant model. You have a mental illness. You have schizophrenia." And I was like, "No, the doctor said you can't trick a doctor." That's what the nurse said there. They said you can't trick a doctor. If a doctor says you don't have a mental illness, you don't have a mental illness. They said if someone has a mental illness, they can't hide it. And, if you can quote unquote hide it, then you don't have it. So I didn't have a mental illness. But so then I was in San Diego for a little bit, staying at UC San Diego because they had finals week, so I was staying in the library and I was writing my stuff. But again, I became a right winger. My whole life I was a left winger, communist basically. But then I became a right winger nationalist. My whole life I was anti-white. Then I became pro-white, and or pro-Aryan especially. And then so when I'm at UCSD, I'm writing my stuff. Now I think that a lot of then people will say like, oh well, all the abuse that happened to you, it must have happened because you were crazy, or because you were a right winger, or you had no. All this stuff happened because my parents wouldn't talk to me and stuff. And now I don't want to seem like I'm a victim, like a victimology, like, oh, it's their fault and I'm just the victim and stuff. But, when I became a right winger, I was very against that whole notion, like the victim mentality and stuff. But regardless, in this scenario, if my parents would have just talked to me, all this crazy stuff wouldn't have happened. If they just would have talked to me, listened to me, all this crazy stuff wouldn't happen. I wouldn't have started writing all this stuff online and stuff. Because I was stuck on Kawhi, and it's just like all this stuff would not have happened if they would have just talked to me, helped me get basketball videos, just been normal people. At least talk to me, at least listen to me, saw me. And if they saw me, they would have seen that I'm not crazy, but they wouldn't do that. So I was in San Diego. I stayed there for a week. Or a couple weeks, and then finally my grandma and grandpa, my mom's mom and dad, picked me up from San Diego, and they took me to their place in Malibu. They had a condo in Malibu. And then I finally got the basketball videos from my other grandma's house, my mom's mom, and I started to upload them onto YouTube. And that's what I wanted the whole time. But this is the crazy thing that happened. So then I'm at my grandma and grandpa's house, my dad's mom and dad. And while I'm there, I'm telling my grandpa, I'm like, listen, I did discover the theory of everything, which is true. I discovered the quadrant model, which is the theory of everything. I was like, I want some help here. Can you guys help me, get this to the professors? I want to go to colleges and talk to the professors. And I discovered the theory of everything. I discovered the nature of existence. It's a quadrant pattern, is underlying reality. I want to get this stuff out. And then my grandpa was like, well, if you want a car, if you want to do that, then get a job and you can, get a car, and then you can go to the professors and you could talk to them about this. Now, again, this is the problem with my grandpa where I feel like he didn't help. The one was, no talk about the past thing that he invented, that my parents, took dogmatically without realizing that that's not the flow, that you can talk about the past. The other one was, you need to be independent. Once you see, he didn't believe the quadrant model. He didn't even know that it was a theory of everything. He thought it was, as he would say later, just bullshit. He thought it was a way for me to try to stay dependent on my parents to get them to take care of me. And he thought that it wasn't the flow, because it got me an ally enemy software where if they did what I wanted, then they were my allies. If they didn't, then they were my enemies. No, I just wanted to talk to them. And like I said, my sister had my parents gave my sister a Mercedes. I didn't have anything at this point. I just wanted to talk to them and just have everything, sort things out. They could see that I was normal. All this stuff, the way that they were treating me was not right. Okay, so so my grandpa's like, yes, you can get a car, just get a job, and then work at. He was like, work at you could, and I was like, where do I get a job? He's like, work at Jamba Juice or something. The thing was, I had a bachelor's degree in psychology. That's the other thing, is my mom was like, you need to get a job at, when I was in Kauai, you need to get a job at McDonald's or something. You're schizophrenic. You can only work at McDonald's and stuff. Dude, I had a psychology degree. They could have helped me get a regular job in some sort of psychology field, but again, nobody was helping me. I was just like stuck with zero help in a very negative situation. So I saw my grandpa, Leah has a car. My sister has a Mercedes. Can you guys just give me a car just so I could drive, talk to the professors and stuff, get this quadrant stuff out? And I wanted a car regardless, because I was stuck at my grandma and grandpa's house, or my grandma and grandpa's place in Malibu, which isn't bad, but I basically just didn't want to just be stuck there. And I wanted to be able to, and I wanted to get the quadrant stuff out. And I wanted, and I wanted to talk to my mom and dad, and and see if they could help me out and everything. And I wanted that people to just listen to me and help with the basketball, get the basketball videos, just listen to me, see that I wasn't crazy and stuff. But then my grandpa's like, well, just get a job. Just, because his whole thing was make me independent. You need to be independent. And then once you're independent, then everything's going to be good. You're just going to strengthen your ego and, just need to get a job. I just graduated from college. I had a psychology degree, but he was like, well, get a job at Jamba Juice. So then I got in a fight with my grandpa. And this is at the time when I was uploading my videos my basketball videos onto YouTube, but I hadn't finished uploading it. So I got in an argument with my grandpa, and then my grandpa called the police, and then the police took me out. So now I had all my basketball videos at my grandpa's place, and then I was kicked out of my grandpa's place. But I didn't want to keep my basketball videos there. So I put all my basketball videos in a bag, and I went with the police, and they took me to Malibu to the freeway, dropped me off at the freeway, and I was with a bag of all my basketball DVDs, and I was on the side of the freeway at Malibu, and I didn't have any money. I think I had $20 somehow. I had $20 or something. So I called a taxi, and then I had the taxi drive me to my mom's place. Now, I wasn't allowed there because it's close to my mom and dad, and they didn't want me near them. And I just wanted to talk to them. They wouldn't talk to me. Now, yeah, I admit at this time I'd become a right-winger and stuff. But like I said, I wouldn't have been writing all this stuff if it wasn't for the fact, like I said, when I was on Kauai, I wrote all my left-wing stuff on INTP Central because I was a left-winger, but I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for the fact that I was, you could say I was isolated. I was with my grandpa, who I thought was a Nazi at the time. I thought he was a right-winger. I didn't like right-wingers. And, I just wanted help to get my basketball videos. Nobody was helping me. I was stuck on Kauai. I wanted to get off Kauai. And then they kicked me off INTP Central. So then I had all the left-wing stuff on there. And then I changed my views and I became a right-winger. So then I had to counterbalance it with the stuff that I was writing on Facebook, the counterbalance of stuff on INTP Central that was stuck on there. And all this crazy stuff would not have happened if people just would have listened to me and talked to me. If my mom and dad would just talk to me, if they would have helped me get basketball videos, all this stuff, it wouldn't have happened. So I'm not trying to make myself into like the victim mentality and stuff. But really, if people would just, my parent family, if my grandpa didn't try to intervene with all his like, oh, make him independent, don't talk to him. He didn't say don't talk to them, but that's how they interpreted it. And no talking about the past. No, you should be able to talk about the past. They basically demonized me. They thought that I was the bad person from high school. None of the stuff would have happened if it wasn't for the shoot away machine. I didn't have problems. I was doing excellent. I would have been great with basketball. Everything would have been fine. The shoot away machine was what messed things up. So then I was at my grandma's house in Granada Hills, close to my mom and dad's place. And I had all my basketball videos there. And I still wanted to upload them onto YouTube, but I didn't have Wi-Fi and stuff, so I couldn't upload them at this time. So I had uploaded a few when I was at my grandpa's. Now, I even lost a few more videos during this whole process. I don't know. Maybe I left one at my grandpa's. I don't even know. But I know that I lost a few more videos. So this is how crazy this whole thing was. A few more DVDs. So I have my DVDs, and I'm just, I put them in my grandma's closet downstairs, and I'm just like, and I'm staying with my grandma at this time. So, and then I start trying to write, because I'm nervous, so I'm trying to write raps. I can only write raps, so I'm nervous. So I'm trying to write my raps online. Then the next day, my mom and dad come, or my mom and my sister come, and they're yelling at me. And they're telling me, get out of the house, get out of the house, get out of your, out of my grandma's house. So they didn't know that I was there. So then I had to run out of my grandma's house. All right. So then they gave me, like all this stuff just went really crazy. So then I ran out of my grandma's house. They're like, your dad's gonna come, he's gonna kill you. So I left my grandma's house, and I just like started walking around Granada Hills somewhere. Then I went back to my grandma's house later. My grandma was like, okay, well, we won't tell anybody what's going on. And I don't remember exactly like the whole chain of events, But I was telling my grandma, I was like, Grandma, can you tell mom and dad to just talk to me? I don't have a mental illness. And my grandma was saying, well, your mom says that she will talk to you when you start to take medicine. And I was like, but I don't have a mental illness. I don't need to take medicine. I was like, Grandma, do you think I have schizophrenia? And then my grandma was like, I don't know. You might, I don't know. So then I started yelling at my grandma, and then my grandma fell backwards. This is how crazy everything went. If people just would have freaking just talked to me and just freaking listened to me, it's just, but all this freaking crazy shit. So then my grandma, and I'm not making this up, and then you'll see what happens next, but my grandma falls backwards because I'm yelling at her. I'm like, I don't have schizophrenia, have people talk to me, give me some help, we need to fix this situation. This stuff is freaking insane. So then my grandma falls backwards, and I caught her as she was falling backwards. I saved my grandma. And then, I think that I don't know exactly what happened, but then I was just like sitting at the computer, just like typing stuff. Next thing I know, my dad comes up behind me, and my dad just attacks me. He's like tries to grab me, and I get up and I run out of the door, and I start running. I run out of my grandma's house, and I start running up the hill. And my dad gets in his car with my sister in the car, and then he starts chasing me up the hill. There's another car coming down the hill. I wave him down. I'm like, hey, can you give me a ride? It's a car full of like a guy and a couple women, and two guys and like two women. So they let me in the car. This is weird. And then they start taking me up the hill, but then my dad's behind him, and he's beep, beep. He's holding on to the horn. They're like, hey, is this guy chasing you? And I was like, yeah, he's chasing me. That's my dad. And they're like, well, you got to get out. We're not going to freaking be a part of this. So then I got out of the car, and then I ran up the hill. My dad's chasing me in the car. I run up into my grandma lives in a mountain. So I run up into a trail, and I start going down the hill. Then, I make it to the bottom of the hill, and the police are there. And then the police say, the police are talking to me, but the police are like, because I was in good shape at the time, because I was working out a lot, and they were like, you seem like a normal guy and stuff. And they're like, your parents are saying that you have schizophrenia, but you don't seem like you have schizophrenia and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I don't have any mental illness. They're like, yeah, we can tell you don't have a mental illness. But then they were like, but according to your mom, you just beat up your grandma. And I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, that's what she's saying. And then so I told them, no, my grandma fell backwards and I caught her. And then so they're like, okay. So then they start talking to my grandma. And then so they take me up to where my mom and dad are. And as I pull up, my mom's yelling at me, you fucking loser. You're an elder abuser. You're an elder abuser. You're going to go to prison. You're going to prison. My mom's screaming this at me when I'm in the car, in the police car. So she's screaming this. Again, the demonization of me. She had really developed, it's a dehumanization, to develop the hatred toward me, and it had stemmed from high school. It had stemmed from the whole shoot away thing, and she wouldn't listen to me. I remember at this time I tried to tell her it wasn't because of me, it was because of shoot away. She's like, you don't take any responsibility. Again, my grandpa's med psychiatry of take responsibility, but which she misinterpreted. My grandpa would even say that she assimilated it into her predator prey software and into her immaturity. And he'd say that she was not in the flow. But anyway, she's like, you don't take any responsibility. It wasn't a shoot away machine. If anything, the shoot away machine helped you. No, it's because you couldn't handle the pressure. So she had a hatred toward me, a contempt toward me. So she's yelling, you're going to prison. You just, did this to your, you abused your grandma. You just hit your grandma. So the police were talking to my grandma. And then the police come out, and my mom's like, yeah, he's going to prison. Yeah. And then the police are like, their stories match. According to the grandma, she fell backwards and he caught her. And according to him, she fell backwards and he caught her. And so there was a mark on her arm. So my mom thought that I had hit her, but I didn't hit her. I had caught her when she was falling, which is true. So then the police are like, yeah, their stories match up. She says that she fell backwards and he caught her, and that's what he said. We can't send him to jail. He didn't do anything. So then my mom started freaking out and flipping out and saying, oh, you have to take him to jail. And then my grandma's next door neighbor, Eva, who was a Jewish lady. See, at the time I had become very right wing, right? So I think that she also didn't like me at this time. So then she's yelling, he has schizophrenia, you need to send him to the psych ward, and she's like, if you don't send him to a psych ward, I'm going to call, I know the chief of police, I'm going to get you guys fired and stuff. And then, I was just sitting there and the police were like, no, we can't do it. He hasn't done anything that warrant going to a psych ward. We can't just take him to a psych ward. So then she's flipping out, everyone's flipping out. So then finally I just tell the police, I was like, just take me to the psych ward. I was like, just take me to the psych ward. Just make everybody happy. So I'm going to get more into what happens next.